I have been on a journey to be someone. And along the way, I learned the secrets. It's your friends, the people you choose to spend time with. My life, health, and wealth have been changed forever by the people around me. And now it's time for you to meet my friends. This is the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. Welcome back to the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. Today I'm here with my longtime friend, Jeff Smith. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, man, thanks for letting me be here. This is great.
Yeah. Jeff and I have known each other for years through a mentorship and a mastermind that we are both a part of. And we're both here in Houston, Texas. So we run into each other at a lot of events. And so he's been very vocal on social media about what he's been doing with a couple of different ventures he's been in. So I said, man, let's get you on the podcast. You can talk about it. But before we jump into all that, Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate?
Yeah, so after I graduated from Clemson with a civil engineering degree, I went to the oil and gas world. I was with a construction contractor, worked for them for many years, did a stint in the Middle East for about 3 years, came back. I was in the proposal group. And there was a point that I had come to in my career when I said, hey, I think I've got more in the tank, but the only way I'm going to grow and advance is if my manager gets transferred, gets promoted, retires, or dies. And so I'm like, I'm at a point where my growth is no longer in my control. And that was kind of a problem. And so I did what any normal person does. I go to YouTube University and say, what other things can I do to make money? And stumble upon real estate rental properties. Buy rentals, they say, get tenants. It'll be fun, they said, right? And so I start pursuing this on the side because I truly feel like sky's the limit. Like we just got to figure this thing out. And so get into it a little bit and take down a couple of fourplexes and flips and have grown from there. And it's been quite the roller coaster.
Yeah, it has been quite the roller coaster, and I've been along for the ride on some of your progress. But before we get to all of that, I'd like to talk about your first deal. Do you remember your first deal?
Yeah, the very first deal I did, it was after a year of listening to Bigger Pockets. Like seriously, it took me a solid year of just that's how long. And some people freak out about it, like I got to do a deal right now. Like guys, it takes a while. So the first one, it was a pair of fourplexes. So I was into like multifamily almost right out the gate. Of course, fourplexes are considered single family, but that's what I purchased. The property manager was doing a stellar job, and it appreciated decently enough, and it had its pains and all the rest of it. But that was the first one, and it worked out. It was great.
And wow, 1 year of Bigger Pockets. You said like it took you too long, or that you should have acted quicker. If it makes you feel any better, I listened to Bigger Pockets for 3 or 4 years before I did my first deal. I
Oh,
had
I'm saying most people think they got to do their first deal in like 24 hours. I'm like, guys, like if it takes you time to get like it's okay. Just are you making progress? So yeah, Mike, like if it took you 2-3 years, cool. If it takes me 1 year, great. If it took someone else 30 days, if it took someone 5 years, that's fine as long as you're moving forward.
Yeah, and I was at YouTube University. You know, my first private lender called it this, so I always stole this. He said, "You got your master's degree in real estate," because at that time, Bigger Pockets came out one time a week, and I would listen to that episode while I had a job where I drove and flew a lot, and had a lot of road time, and so I would listen to that. And at the end of every episode, they'd recommend a book or two, and then I would
Mm.
download that book on Audible, and I knew I had 1 week to kill that book, to just crush it before the next
Oh
Bigger
wow.
Pockets episode came out. And I did that for years, while trying to figure out how on earth I could possibly do this real estate thing, traveling Monday through Friday. So 1 year of BP, I commend you, sir. That it just took you 1 year of podcasting and YouTube University to take action. But we all find out the same thing, Jeff. Or well, you might have a different experience, but with me, we all find out the same thing because I was so scared of my first deal, and then after I was in the property, rented out, everything's going great, everything's stabilized. I'm like, wow, that was not nearly as scary. That wasn't as near as difficult. let me get to do another one and another one and another one, and then you're hooked. Did you have that same experience?
I had a little bit of that experience, yeah. So we ended up buying this property, put a little too much money down into it, quite frankly. We don't have to worry about that. But what happened kind of promptly after that was Hurricane Harvey decided to stop by and wreak havoc all over Houston. Now, I had already been thinking to myself at the time. So when I got back from the Middle East, I had this nice treasure chest of cash because that's the only way they can get people to go out there and work there is by paying them a lot of money. But I very quickly realized after buying these two fourplexes, like, hey, wait a second. If I go try and pick up like a portfolio of 20 doors, I'm going to burn through cash very fast on down payments, especially if I'm buying it off the MLS. So I'm going to need to learn sub two. I'm going to need to learn fix and flips. I'm going to have to generate some additional cash to do this. So again, Hurricane Harvey shows up and we go take down our first fix and flip. And because things were just kind of weird in Houston at the point, I kind of forced myself into renting that house for a period of time, and we wrapped it and we did some other things. But that was kind of what happened. Instead of a direction of building a portfolio, I went in the direction of let me build up the consistent income business because a lot of mentorships will teach like, well, only get a property if it cash flows $200, only get a property if it cash flows $500 maybe. This is borderline impossible, especially I don't know, like with just normal Texas houses. So this is not a really rational expectation. So I've kind of rethought my strategy for long-term buy and holds. But anyway, that's why I pivoted. Instead of just picking up rentals, we pivoted into fix and flip, wholesaling, and eventually selling land to developers, which is what I really seem to enjoy and gravitate towards.
Yeah, so you took the next question out of my mouth. I was going to ask you. So you bought two fourplexes off the MLS. You did they need substantial rehab?
They didn't need substantial rehab. The problem is that the appraiser was comparing the property to a couple other ones in the area that weren't as good a quality. And once the appraiser has kind of made their opinion, they never change their mind no matter what you tell them. So I just had to throw down too much money as my down payment to get into it. Just, instead of 20%, I think it was like 30% or something. It was just too much. But there weren't significant repairs required. But along the way, there was deferred maintenance we had to do. There were some efficiencies we did. Like, here's something stupid. In the bathrooms, don't have separate light and fan switches. Put them on the same switch. Force the people to use the fan instead of tearing up, the paint and stuff. So little things like that we upgraded.
Yeah, so you had to make it look like more of a property that was meant to be rented instead of something that was built by a home builder, maybe with the format to be owner occupied. And I wanted to throw something out there for everybody listening. Jeff and I know this, but for anybody that's listening, if you're considering like a house hack for your first deal, you can use most mortgages to buy up to 4 units, and then you can live in one unit, rent out the others. And so if Jeff needed to or Jeff wanted to, he could have bought one of these properties with a FHA or just a conventional mortgage, lived in one of the units and rented out the others. And you only have to live there for 12 months, just 12 months, and then you can move out to another property. Jeff has a family and has a home and everything that he really loves, and he wasn't really in that much of a pinch due to his treasure chest of him working overseas. However, me and my wife got started with house hacking, and we couldn't find a 2 to 4 unit that made sense in the amount of time that we had. So we ended up buying a large house with a lot of bedrooms, renting out by the room. And I got to give everything that I got today to my wife because most people's spouses would not allow that, with us living with roommates, and we did not have children. Um, but yeah, you bought two fourplexes. Were they on the same parcel of land? Were they across the street? Was it the same purchase agreement?
They were next door to each other, so it was in the same subdivision, just on separate lots. And the extent of my family today is just me and my cat. So don't have a big family. But hindsight 2020, that is a fantastic strategy for anybody. Like, first property, yeah, get the fourplex with that loan program you described because it requires virtually no money down, and you're just building up this nest egg equity really quick and basically pretty much paying nothing to just occupy the place.
Yeah, and so did you have to do that on two separate loans, two separate purchase and sale agreements? How did they work that out?
Yes, they were two separate purchase sale agreements because fourplexes work as just individual properties, not as a true multifamily. So yes, there were two separate loans on them, but both from the same bank.
All right. And do you still own those today?
No, I do not. I liquidated them. They had appreciated in value pretty significantly. When interest rates were cruising, at 3%, and I just saw, man, there's so much equity, and there's other things that I want to do, so I liquidated them.
Okay, so how long did you hold them before it was time to sell?
I think I held them for about 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years. And did you manage it yourself or did you use a property manager?
I had a property manager, and that was one of the reasons I bought it because she was so good.
Oh, really? Oh, she like came with the property?
Yes, she had been managing those two properties and a few others in the area. And then she had another portfolio of stuff. And so I met her at the property. She showed me the contractors, the tenants loved her. And so I said, okay, like I feel pretty good about this. She's got this thing on lockdown. I just need to do my part and, make sure that, she is able to do what she needs to keep these people happy. And it worked out.
And so from two fourplexes, you held for a couple years and sold. So tell us what your business looks like today. What are you getting into now?
Yeah. So right now, we're chasing foreclosures and fix and flip and wholesale opportunities in the city of Houston. Right, that's the today money. I have a team that calls data for me, so I do a lot of training for them because they're newbies, they're getting started. So I say, here's the data. All I need you to do is call it, and I give them little daily trainings, and then I go close it, and then give them a percentage cut so they can start getting going. The other thing that I'm really excited about and getting back into is land subdivides and land development. And so when the interest rates went sky high, it was extremely difficult. Actually, it was impossible to sell this land to developers because they have land in backlog. So they just started working on that. They didn't want to pick up any expensive land. They just sat on it. So I had to put that whole business on hold for a couple of years. But now that the interest rates have stabilized, not necessarily gone down, they just need to be stable. Now the developers are interested in buying land again. So I'm getting that started. There's a 300-acre parcel I'm working on now, and we'll subdivide that into 5 and 10 acre lots. So I'm pretty excited about entering that again.
Well, you just opened up a lot of questions for me. I was writing down here while you were talking. I'm going to start with the big one. How did you go about building relationships with builders who would want to buy land?
This is actually not nearly as hard as people think. We think of the builders as this big monstrosity out there instead of we're so used to working directly with sellers that most people don't understand what it's like doing a business to business type of relationship. So the I'll circle back to this in a second. Actually, can I talk about the first land deal I ever did?
Sure. Would love
Okay.
to hear that.
Okay. So this is what really turned me on to this. And there's a backstory. I went to this one seminar, and the guy who was talking, he was explaining about how to find builders by using the MLS. And all you had to do was go on the map and click the button for new construction, and bam, you find new builders. And on the listing, built by such and such homes, built by Bob's home, whatever. No problem. Google them, call them up, no big deal. You could sell lots very quickly like this because builders are not interested in going and negotiating with sellers. They're not. They just want to be building stuff. So there is like not a scenario where a builder will backdoor you. They don't have time for it. They just want the lots. Like I have literally no problem calling up just a local house builder, Bob's Homes over here. Bob, my name's Jeff Smith. I'm a local wholesaler. You know what we do. There's this property over here. It's a vacant lot. I'm working with the seller. She wants to sell. I'll bring this thing to you first. What would you pay for a lot in this area? And he'll tell you. It's like, you get this thing for me for 60 grand. I'll buy it from you. I don't give a crap what you locked it up for. Great. We're done here. So I was being told this story. And the guy that was being talked about had contracted some land in New Jersey, totally screwed it up, as wholesalers do. They just contract everything they touch when they don't know anything. And he calls the developer adjacent to this property who's throwing down tons of houses everywhere. and says, hey man, I've got this land over here. What would you pay for it? The guy quoted him a number that was $1 million higher than what he contracted it for in New Jersey. And he closed it, closed and funded. And I remember thinking to myself, that's crazy. I'll never do something like that. That's totally nuts. 4 months later, my VA is calling probate leads, finds this property sitting on an acre of land. The seller is complaining that wholesalers are lowballing him. And I can understand why, because there's no fix and flips in this area, not one. He's like, I want 180. Everybody's offering me 90. The wholesalers just don't know. I don't fault them. They just have no idea. And I'm about to throw this lead away, and I remember this story. I was like, I wonder. So I look around, and I'll be darned, there's a developer throwing down about 12 townhouses per acre down the street. Call up the first guy. Nope, not interested. Call up the second guy. Nope, not interested. Call up the third guy. He's like, yeah, we'd buy land. What do you got? Now, I kind of didn't know any better at the time, but I basically said, look, out of respect, I don't want to tell you the address because this family could wake up tomorrow and decide they don't want to sell. I don't want to waste your time on this. Just give me some guidance on pricing and I'll let you have the first stab at it. How's that? He said, that's fair. We'll buy for like $7 a square foot. Go ye therefore and conquer and let me know what you find out. Okay. So I was like, all right, so this guy's looking for 180,000. It's sitting on an acre of land. Let me just do the math here real quick. So $7 times 43,560. Holy hell, he just quoted me $320,000. And I freak out. Like I have a mental breakdown. I'm just frozen because I'm looking at this whale that I've never seen before. And there's a part of me that's like, this is too good to be true. The developer screwed up. There's no freaking way. And then something else happens. I look on the MLS and I go, why is the adjacent acre to him have the same last name? So I call up the sellers, like, you don't happen to know this other acre adjacent to you. Oh my God, it's your cousin and he wants to sell two for the same price. I'll call you back. Hey, developer, you want 2 acre? Oh, you do, and you'll pay this. Okay, I'll call you back. I'm freaking out because I don't know how to close. I know what the seller wants. I know what the buyer wants, but I don't know how to negotiate and close them. Now, some people viewing this might say, Jeff, this is actually a pretty simple problem. Just send them the contracts, be done with it. Here's why I'm freaking out. If I call the seller back and say, I'll buy it for 180, what is to stop him from just telling the next guy that he's got an offer of 180 and the other wholesaler is slick enough to just say, oh, that's crazy. I'll pay you 181. And then the whole deal blows up, right? It's not over until the thing is signed. This is why I got so crazy about learning sales, negotiating, and closing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I scrambled fast. I learned what I needed to learn. And a couple months later, I got it signed by both sellers for the 2 acres and the developer. 7 months of probate hell later, and a title company, 2 title companies, one of which nearly blew up my deal, and I'm still mad at them about this. But 7 months go by, and we closed it, and we got a check for $200,000. And it was an amazing deal. And after that, the reason I got crazy about sales is I said, never again will I not know what to do. It's not that I'll close everybody, but I will always know what to do next. And now I can close deals a lot stronger, and I teach people how to do it. So that was my first big land deal that, and then went off from there.
$200,000 in 7 months.
Yeah. That was the assignment fee, guys, not the purchase price. The assignment fee was $200,000.
Wow. And did they make you double close that at title?
So here's what happened. Here's what I got mad. The first title company said the probate is too messy. We don't want a part of it. The second title company just kind of dragged their feet. But what really made me mad, they shared my title. I switched it from an assignment to a double close because I wanted to hide this. The title company sent my title insurance policy to the buyer.
Wonderful.
And guess what number that has on it? My purchase price. So the developer actually was pretty upset. He's like, how am I paying you? So this guy had not, and I I'm not angry about it. But this guy had not seen numbers like that to a wholesaler before. So he was kind of getting angry. But not too long afterwards, we kind of fired that title company for that, and then different title companies stepped in. But anyway, we basically, as a policy, double close anything that's north of 15 grand because you just don't know who's going to freak out. 5 minutes ago he was fine, and today he's having a meltdown. Just is what it is. Now, I think he kind of learned from that because I heard later there was another wholesaler he was buying from, and he's going to pay that guy like 300 grand. So I think he kind of experienced it. He's like, okay, it is what it is. So I don't have any ill will towards him.
Yeah, and that number he gave you of what he would pay for land means that his profit margin is well built into that. And we
Oh
don't get
yeah,
into the in buyer's business of their profit margin, so they shouldn't be getting into our business of our profit margin. Yeah,
exactly.
so I wouldn't feel bad at all on a deal like that because if that builder made too much money, he's not going to come back and give you more money after the
No,
deal's over. So, what does it cost you to double close?
I mean the double close was. I mean it's just nothing. It's not even like a couple grand at most. Probably not even that, to be honest with you. It's just another set of paperwork because they don't force another title policy on you.
Right.
I think it was like $1,000, like at maximum. It was nothing.
And so, for everybody listening, a double close is where they do two transactions back to back. And so, instead of a wholesaler taking a contract and assigning the contract to the end buyer, what they do is they take the contract and they perform on it on closing day. So the wholesaler will own the property for an instant, 1 hour, 1 minute, whatever it is. And then the title company performs a second close, transferring it from Jeff's name to the end buyer. And so what that does is create two different HUD statements, two different sets of paperwork. And whatever your assignment fee is between you and the title company. It won't appear on your end buyer's paperwork. And depending on who you're selling to, some end buyers may require a double close for liability reasons, um, or even I know people who've sold to hedge funds and they needed to close the property in their name for a certain amount of time, maybe a number of days or a number of months before a hedge fund might buy it from you. So if you're selling a home to Joe Fix and Flipper, a mom and pop local investor, you might not need to double close. But when you're dealing with institutions or large assignment fees or more professional operations, you may have to take title in your name, even if it's just for a day.
Yeah.
Um, so I got a ton of questions after what you just said. I was trying to write some down here. And so you said you can just find a lot, call up a local builder and say, what would you pay for this lot? And then fill the order. Love that. How do you know which builder is right for which lot? Because, for example, Perry Homes may not want to buy one lot. They may have like a minimum lot number, right? So if you just have one or two lots, how do you find the home builder that would be willing to do that?
Yeah, this is also not particularly difficult. So Perry Homes, for example, D.R. Horton, Lennar, Ashton Woods, Pulte, like the list goes on. When you see these guys building, they're always very large acreage they're throwing down on. You never see them at just one-off lots. This doesn't happen. In fact, I was on the phone with Pulte the other day, and they said, "Hey, our minimum lot yield we're willing to chase after is like 50 lots." So they're not going to buy one, which is fine, no problem. So all I got to do, everyone, is just pull up the MLS and say, "Show me the new builds in like this zip code." Like that's it. And I just pull up is like and just say, who's building anything here? And there might be a duplex here, there's a single family here, another single family over there. If you're in a very ritzy part of town where they're like $1 million homes, they're only building on one lot at a time anyway. They're not developing 100 acres of land. They're, like River Oaks, Houston, they're not throwing down 100 of these things. So finding that is really not difficult to find them.
All right, excellent. That's not difficult to find, and so you can just call them up and get them on the phone and say, "Hey, I'm a wholesaler. I got a lot of land deals coming through. How do I know if this deal is a good fit for you?" That easy,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. So I may call. I'll Google the builder. I'll try and go there first. If I can't contact them, I'll call the realtor. And here's what I say: "Hi, my name is Jeff Smith. The reason I'm reaching out to you, I saw that you guys were building houses on X Street. I wanted to call and see if you were still looking for lots in the area or if you had moved on to greener pastures. That's how I set this up. So either way, I'm going to find out. 99% of the time, they say, yeah, we'd love to buy lots in the area. What do you got? Say, well, hey, look, I'm a local investor. Usually I'm flipping houses. I don't typically flip land. It's not what I do. But it's come to my attention this house needs to be torn down, something needs to be built, or it's a blank lot, whatever that is. And I say, hey, I'm calling because if you can help me figure out what you'll buy it for, I'll let you have the first stab at it. Can you give me some guidance on what you'd buy lots for in this area? And they're happier in hell to tell you. And if I just speak plainly with them, they'll respond. There's just no reason to hide from them.
That's awesome. And when somebody's calling these people, is there like a certain job title or person they're looking for? Is there like an investor relations department? Who are you asking for when you call these home builders?
If you're calling on a major builder like the DR Hortons and Pulte, like we just talked about, the person you're looking for is the land acquisition manager. That's who you're looking for. Okay. And they're all have the same title. Okay. And they're actually really easy to talk to. If you're calling on a local builder, I'm trying to Ameritex Homes is an example. They don't they build tons of houses. They will build on larger acreage, but they will pick up individual lots. So Ameritex Homes, somebody you can call. And if it's a company like that, you might ask the same thing. Who's your land acquisition guy? And if the person that's like, what are you talking about? Just say, well, who's the person who buys the lots for you? Who's the owner? I want to talk to that person. I have land, a lot for sale. Can you help me? And they'll understand.
That's awesome. And then will these are home builders subdividing the land, putting in utilities, putting in roads, or is there a company between you and the home builders for like raw land in the countryside or in undeveloped areas? Is the home builder developing the land, or are they just trying to buy the lots when they're already subdivided?
Right. So if you're in the middle of a city and it's a finished lot, in Houston, we see a lot of times where a builder will come, they'll chop the lot in half and throw up two townhomes. Subdividing a lot in half like that from a 5,000 to a 2,500, that's not particularly hard paperwork. The utilities are already there. There's no true developing required. Once we're out and we're doing large acreage, there is a person in between. You have what's termed the horizontal builder, who is truly the developer. And then you have the vertical builders or the house builders. DR Horton, Pulte, and all these guys we just said, they're not developers. They're house builders at the end of the day. They buy finished lots and they contract with a developer to do it. So there was a period of time where the house builders, they still wanted finished lots. They just didn't want to hold on to it. So all I'd had to do, call them up, say, oh, you guys aren't buying raw land right now. You want, okay, cool. No problem. Who's your local guy in the area you buy finished lots from? Can you hook me up? Say, oh yeah, here's the guy's name. Call him. It's like, yeah, Jose. Like I sold him 20 acres in Conroe. He's a great guy. Jose, I got this 20 acres of land in Conroe. You want to do it? He's like, yeah, I'll do it. And we negotiated the deal. He ended up selling the lots to KB Homes. It was awesome.
So what do you call that? Is that a land developer?
Yeah. So the guy who clears the land, installs the utilities, puts in the roads, subdivides, prepares the lots, rezones it, all that stuff. That is your developer. The developer end product are finished lots to the builders.
And so you take raw land, and this is acreage outside of developed areas. And so you take raw land, you sell it to a developer. A developer does all the paperwork with the county, puts in the utilities, subdivides and plats the lots, puts in roads, and then that end product is lots that are ready to be sold in packages to home builders for them to build out their next development. That sound about right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And so when we're dealing with infill lots that are in the city, that are in communities that have already been developed and built out, for those, we go straight to the home builder. But in most cases, when you're dealing with acreage, you would want to go to a land developer. But should we start with the home builder first and then go to the land developer, or do we go straight to a land developer?
Well, it I hate to be the guy who says it depends, but it actually does. And the reason I say that is because not all developers are created equal. Some developers only want to do kind of the single family areas. Other developers only want to do multifamily, for example. It just depends on what they are wanting to do, right? I'm not going to call the same guy for 10 acres along a major highway for a commercial multifamily and the same guy for single family, unless that's what they do. So if I'm finding large acreage and I have no idea who my developers are that I should use in that area, I'm just going to call the biggest, baddest home builder in the area and say, give me your Rolodex, dude, because they need the lots. So they're incentivized. They're not incentivized to go around me. They're not incentivized to like give me a stupid lowball offer. I'll kind of hide the large acreage from the bigger corporations because sometimes they may already have it in their system. So they're like, oh, we already spoke with this person. They've gone radio silent for the past 2 years. Now they're awake. We'll call them again. So I may not tell them that, but I'll just say, listen, I'm hunting 100 acres. This person's ready to go. Do you guys want raw land or do you want me to take it to your local developer? If they say local guy, great. Give me your top 3 guys in that area. Let me put this deal together and you'll obviously know about it before anybody.
Man, you are giving so many actionable tips here in this. This is awesome. This is like a master class in how to wholesale land. And then, how are you pulling data or finding leads? Do you use a data company? How are you finding the parcels that you want to target for marketing?
Okay. Everyone, if you're serious about land, I want you to stop what you're doing right now. I'm about to give you like the biggest hack ever. Okay. If you're looking for infill lots in a city, this is not particularly hard. Just draw a band around the city, vacant lots, zero property value, or like, $1,000 property value. This is not hard. You can find lots everywhere, no problem. Okay. When you're looking for big land, 50 acres higher, the best approach is a sniper approach. There's no way around it. If you try pulling bulk land, everyone, you'll get this huge list of prospects and you think it's amazing. And then the leads start coming in and they're like, oh, yeah, I'll sell my land. And you look at it and you say, oh, great, you're in the middle of a registered floodway. We can't build anything. You're freaking landlocked over here. Oh, you're on the side of a cliff. Your land isn't even land, it's a lake. You're just getting garbage in. So, what I have done now for any large land that I want, whether I'm doing rural subdivides on the 10-acre exemptions in Texas, or if I'm trying to find land for developers, I handpick every single one of them. It's a
You hand
far more efficient use of time than sorting through the garbage.
Nice. And so for large acreage, what is your preferred marketing channel? Do you send cold calling, text blast, direct mail? How do you like to target large acreage?
So, kind of with any kind of marketing, there's usually levels you go to. So, what I tend to do is I the first pass would be cold calling because it's quick, it's cheap. You get in front of them, you find out if they're interested. Great. If they don't answer that, I'll escalate to little postcards and things or letters or whatever. If that doesn't work, maybe I will escalate to a realtor. Maybe that person is networked with a local realtor in the area. If that doesn't work, then maybe I send a local guy to go door knock on them, or put something on their front door and say, hey, we're interested. Or actually, what I've done recently is I sent what's called a cookie mailer. So it's an actual box of cookies with a handwritten letter in it, and say, hey, thank you so much for. I did this the other day. Thank you so much for speaking with my assistant Corey the other day. I know you're crazy busy. I just wanted to send this quick little gift, and I live in Spring. Um, you know, if the time ever comes that you're interested in selling this land, we're local guys. We're very interested. We know family legacy is important. Here's my phone number. Tell your coworkers I said hi. And it's borderline irresistible for somebody to say, man, this person spent $50 on a box of, damn, these cookies are good. So they call you up and say, even if it's to say I'm not interested, you typically will get a phone call back.
A cookie mailer. Wow. So we couldn't afford to do that when we're sending direct mail to single family homes in the suburbs, but
Yeah.
There is so much margin in land that you can afford to have a very personal touch in the marketing. So a cookie mailer costs about $50. You answered that first question. Where does somebody get a cookie mailer if they want to send something interesting like that?
So one of my business partners. So here's how this. Like I'm not like a super genius. Okay, I didn't think of this strategy. So one of my partners, his name is Dennis Yasko. He's out of New Jersey. We're doing land subdivides together. His wife started like this baking business, and she's really good at it. And I'm not entirely sure if Dennis was just I don't know exactly what happened, but she'll send a box of cookies with this card. And so whenever Dennis was like, "Hey, I'm hot on target for this one piece of land. Maybe this was a really good deal and the seller disappeared, something like that." He'd send this box of cookies that she was making, and the phone would just blow up. And so this was a lead. We got in touch with this person that she went radio silent. I was like, I want this land. It's really, really prime in Houston. Send her a cookie mailer. So that's how that happened.
Cookie mailers, I love it. And then for infill lots in the city, when you're targeting those, what's your preferred marketing channel?
Cold calling and texting is really preferred. The thing about infill lots, there's not a lot of meat on that bone, to be honest with you. Your typical assignment fee on an individual lot is like 5 grand. Now that's fine because usually there's not a lot to talk about, but there's also typically not a lot of pain with the sellers. A vacant lot causes almost no issues. If you set the lot on fire, you've arguably improved it. So there is just never really a crisis to be had with land.
Yeah, so the only pain points could be I'm tired of paying the tax bill or I'm tired of mowing the grass if the HOA even enforces that in that area. So you're right. So there's not a lot of meat on the bones. Assignment fees are small, but there's also not a lot of pain points. $5,000 assignment fee is not a lot to work with there. So I'm assuming if someone wants to target infill vacant lots, it's got to be a volume business. Um,
It's definitely a volume business. But the great thing is, like we just discussed, the builders, they don't need like a super hot discounted piece of dirt. They just need it at a reasonable price. A lot of these builders, what they do, they'll actually like give you a map and they'll say, we'll buy lots for this price in this area, we'll buy lots for this price in this area. And all you got to do is drop pins of your leads and see which section it lands in. Great. XYZ builder will buy 65 grand in this area. All I got to do is talk this guy into selling it for 60,000 and they'll soak them right up.
wow. And so on your disposition process, do you always sell lots to home builders or do you also sell to individuals or do any kind of owner finance or create notes or do anything interesting like that with land?
So on infill lots, the short answer is no. And we're typically just selling them to home builders because realistically, that's your end buyer anyway. Now, that's different than if I was trying to buy a lot in the River Oaks area. Okay. And to be honest with you, so for anybody who doesn't know, the River Oaks area, like this is multi-million-dollar houses, okay? Like not pennies. That
Old
lot's
money, old money.
old money. Those lots are not going to be cheap. I don't want to hang on to that thing. And honestly, your end buyer there is somebody who wants to build their dream mansion there. I actually would recommend you just refer that out. I wouldn't try and hold it. It's not worth it to me. Now, when we go onto rural land and we're subdividing it into the 10-acre lots, those are predominantly sold on seller financing and somebody wants to throw down like a manufactured home. Or maybe they want to build their own little ranchette. So you always have to think about it this way. Land is valued based on what you can do with it. That is what it boils down to. One piece of dirt is not like another. What can you do with it? That is the answer to how you value it. And what has to be done to get it ready to do something with it.
Yeah, I brought up subdividing the land, owner financing, and creating notes because I know several people in my community here that have IRAs that they have self-directed. So they take their retirement accounts, invest in real estate,
Hmm.
and they either loan money out or buy notes or they buy and flip land. And so, if anybody listening wants more information on how to set up a self directed IRA so they can do land developing notes and a lot more with their retirement account, if they want to take control of their retirement and get Wall Street out of their retirement account, you can DM me on Instagram at Michael B. Someone, and I can get you a link to the people that we use here in Houston, and they service clients nationwide. And if anybody is looking at a land deal and is really interested in the Houston area and they want to get it in front of you, Jeff, how would somebody contact you to show you a deal?
So here's what I recommend, because there's a lot of people who look at land. So first of all, the best way to get in touch with me at any point is Instagram, because then I can actually see who you are. Otherwise, I'd get text messages like, "Hey Jeff, how's it going?" I'm like, I don't know who you are. But here's what I say to people, because a lot of folks are newbies, they don't understand land, and so they say, "Hey, I found a piece of land. I literally have no idea what to do. Let me get Jeff to do all the work." And then it's a piece of land out in the middle of Alaska, and there's more bears out there than people, right? I'm like, I can't build a skyscraper out here, dude. So here's the way I think about it. I said, before you start sending land deals off, look at the area and just say, what do I reasonably think can be built here? And is anyone building anything nearby? What do I think reasonably can be built here, and what is being built nearby? And the thing is, if it's like a mile or two out of town, dude, it's too far. If it's like right in the center of town, cool. If it's right on the edge, city limits, awesome. If it's far away, it's not ready. So if you have land and you feel like, hey, this qualifies for what Jeff's talking about, for either subdividing, developing, infill lots, yeah, send them to me on Instagram and I'll take a look.
And what's your Instagram?
So it's jeffsmith.rei.
At jeffsmith.rei. And we'll put that down in the show notes in the description as well. Man, you got me excited to go look at land, Jeff.
Let's go look at some dirt.
Let's go look at some dirt. And I'm gonna move to the end segment of this show. We're gonna
Yeah.
talk. We're gonna ask you the same questions that we ask everybody. So I like to talk on every show about the course of that people are on in life, and we like to think the life we're living right now is something we determined of our own free will. But more often than not, we were put on a course by either our friends, family, where we grew up, where we were raised, our friends, maybe the colleges that we went to, the degrees we hold, the profession our family was in, and we think we're cruising along, our ship is sailing on a course of our own choosing, but it's really a course of your own design. And usually, I've talked to a lot of investors and entrepreneurs, and I ask them what changed their course, and they almost always tell me it was a book. So, Jeff, what book changed the course of your life?
So I think one book in particular that changed the course of my life is probably an unusual one people aren't going to think about. It's called Spin Selling. Spin
Ben
Selling by
Selling.
Neil Rackham.
Oh, I just checked. I have read that one. Yeah, I have that one in my library. Spin Selling. Yeah, that's an older one, isn't it?
It is an older one. I'm an engineer. Spin Selling is basically a research paper on selling. And so I read it and I go, thank goodness there's like data here on what to do, right? This is the thing. This is how it's analyzed. And I loved it. And so once I understood that, my sales and closing ability just went poof. So that is why I teach it. And I teach it to akin to being a real estate doctor. I'm here to diagnose your problems and prescribe the right medicine. How do I diagnose you? By asking questions that don't suck and by progressing the sale forward. And this is what spin selling teaches. But again, it reads like a research paper. It can be a challenge for some people who just don't interpret stuff like that. So that's why I coach it. And that's why it's been so effective for me.
Yeah, it's an older book, and I don't know if it's out of print or not. But when I bought it, I had to buy a used copy on Amazon. But Spin Selling was a really great book. I read that early on in my real estate career when I was first getting going.
Yeah.
And so I also like to talk about on every episode the Go Giver, and I'm a big believer in the Go Giver. And I like to tell everybody on every episode that before you were, I'm sorry, when you were born, your parents had to give to you long before you were capable of giving back to them. And if you work a traditional job, you have to work for 2 weeks or more before you get a paycheck. And so, if your plan on your real estate journey is to hold firewood in your hand and look at the fireplace and say, "Give me warmth first, then I'll give you the wood," it's going to be a long, cold winter. So, I like to ask every guest on every episode, what can you give the audience today?
Yeah. So one of the things that I have for you guys, I have a free school community that I created to just help people get the basics to get the ball rolling on what good questions sound like. Because you guys are probably tired of downloading like a dozen different scripts and they all suck. Why? Because the seller didn't get a copy of the script. They're terrible at this, right? So I have that for you guys. There are different additional modules in there that you can get on better questions. And then if you guys want to get into my coaching group, meets twice a week, got all the stuff. There are links on how you can do that. But that is my free gift to you guys called REI Elite Calls School, and I'll make sure Michael has the link to that, and would be happy to have you guys there.
Awesome. Is that also linked on your Instagram as well?
It is.
Awesome. Awesome. But he'll get us a note. We'll put it in the show notes. And then what can our audience give you today?
So I think the main thing that I'm looking for right now, I'm building teams to go find these land deals. I'm building teams to chase the foreclosure leads as well. But the other thing that I'm really looking at, there's a ton of people out there who say, I want to achieve the financial success dream, but I cannot get these deals under contract. They're slipping through my fingers. I did a testimonial interview with one of my students this morning. He's like, I got a couple, but I felt like these were just like they were deals. I had them and they just went. So for anybody who says, like, look, if anybody watching, you've probably spent some money on understanding comps and underwriting and all this stuff. But if you can't communicate with people, it all falls apart. Sales needs to be the first skill you learn. So if that's your struggle, spread the word, show them Elite Calls School. I did this because I was there. That $200,000 deal that I talked to you about, that would not have happened if I didn't understand how to communicate and close. That's why I got so crazy to spread this message, be like, we are teaching people sales wrong. It's like we're not even doing it in the real estate space. And it drives me crazy. So spread the word. If that's your obstacle, come find me. I want to help you with it because I get genuine joy out of seeing people succeed. I love coaching people in this.
I love that, Jeff. And just one more time before we sign off here, where can everybody find you?
Best place to find me, guys, is Instagram. Go into your search bar and type jeffsmith.rei, JEFFSMITH.rei. Follow me there, send me a DM, and then tell me, Jeff, this is where I'm struggling in my real estate journey. I will send you a voice memo to say hi.
And give my Instagram a follow as well. It's at Michael B. Someone, all one word on Instagram, at Michael B. Someone. And I give out my phone number on every episode. So if anybody has any questions, has any deals they want me to look at, shoot me a text. Don't call me because I get so many spam calls I'll never pick up. But my number is 832-301-9672. And this is Michael Hong and Jeff Smith for the Be Someone podcast. Until next time.